Our next presenter is etl'ee, Katelyn Stiles, and the title of her talk was Sing to You, Remapping Yaaw Teiyí Herring Rock with Song and Dance.
Ganachti shadi adi, etl'ee yuchadu SOK, Kiksari nachatzati kachat jahit ayahana kahidi, kagwantan dashchan ayachat, guskiyi kwanyadi ayachat. Thanks for being here. My name is etl'ee or Katelyn Stiles. I'm going to be sharing some of my in-process research that is part of my dissertation research, but also my lifelong, I think, project for my family and my clan. So yeah, I'll just go, and then we're gonna watch two films. One is my own film collaboration with Kashitla, Louise Brady, and many other collaborators. And then there'll be a really special little excerpt of a film by Gary Olson that shares another Herring Rock woman oral history told by Esther Littlefield. And then I will share more after that, and then I hope we have time to get input and feedback. So I wanted to share, one of my mentors is Dr. Jessica Bizet-Perea. She's Danaína, and she's one of my advisors. She's a Indigenous musicologist, and she works in Indigenous studies. And she talks about how Indigenous introductions of our relationships to what we're doing and the people that we're accountable to, the places we're coming from and that we're working within, and then our practices are all kind of interventions into academic spaces that usually try and claim some kind of neutral objectivity. So I wanted to share from her format a little bit more about my relationship to this film and why I'm here. So my mother, Cindy Diedrichson Stiles, was born in Sitka, and she is Kiksari. We're at the Jumping Herring House, or the Shattering House. Yeah, come on in. And she moved down to California when she was 12, where I was born many years later. My maternal grandparents are Sherry Smith and Arnold Diedrichson, and my father is European, white, English, and French. Grew up in California, and his parents are Nancy Lane and Donald. I'm like blanking on names today. Stiles. So my mother's people are from Sitka, also from Norway and France, and my father's people are from France and England. So I kind of am embodying many contradictions of different identities, but I have different responsibilities in different spaces and places. So I was born and grew up on Chumash land, what is known as California, and then I studied art at UC Berkeley on Ohlone lands, and I moved to Berlin, Germany for several years, where I met my partner Barnaby, and then I moved to UC Davis, which is on Patwin lands, to start my PhD, and I finally got to Sitka. I came here the first time with my mom in 2018, and I met Kashitla, Louise Brady, through my uncle Ben Diedrichson, and got to work with herring protectors and making lots of different relationships through that work. Yeah, and then I moved here 2.5 years ago when I was pregnant with my son, Kitchgau Brannigan, and I'm currently working at UAS in Indigenous Studies, doing curriculum development and student support for new students. And I have a background in art and dance, which is really important to the work that I'm doing now in Indigenous studies and Indigenous science. So yeah, I just wanted to share all that to share my relationships to this work. And before we watch the film, I wanted to share some Indigenous and feminist theory that I'm excited about that is kind of informing my creative research and how I'm kind of approaching this work. And first, I wanted to share some ideas from feminist science and technology studies. This is about ways of knowing in Indigenous science. And I've been spending a lot of time with this book by Max Liboron. They are a Métis scholar and scientist, and their book is Pollution is Colonialism. And they say that traditional ecological knowledge or Indigenous science is about ways of knowing, not about what is known. So it's not about data, it's about whole systems of knowledge that requires Indigenous presence and sovereignty and relationships and is specific to certain places. And so they are calling for folks to use Indigenous science or Indigenous knowledge systems because, sadly, traditional ecological knowledge is still sometimes extracted through research in ways that are not including Indigenous people after the knowledge is taken out of the place. And this is in the hopes of supporting Indigenous sovereignty into the future. And situated knowledges is a big topic, but it's, for me, kind of challenging these claims of neutral objectivity in dominant science. And Donna Haraway calls it the God trick of seeing everything from nowhere. And so I've been reflecting on this in relationship to like herring policy in the fish and game, like maximum sustained yield. There are projections of abundance and the whole concept of biomass. So it's really interesting to kind of break those things down. And Oscar Coagli, an Inupiaq scholar, late scholar, says all knowledge comes from somewhere, which I feel is also about, situating knowledges. It's all from somewhere, and it requires relationship. Another thing I try and work on in my filmmaking practice and also the work I'm doing with herring ladies is unsettling a human-centric agenda. And so I really try and think of Yaaw herring as key participants, witnesses to our work, and collaborators. So I'm influenced by Zoe Todd's work, Listening to Fish. I recommend her work. Okay, colonialism is a process, not an event. I've heard that said in many different ways during this conference, and I just wanted to share this quote out loud. This is also from Pollution is Colonialism. Colonialism is not just about taking land, though it certainly includes taking land. Stealing is a manifestation, a symptom, a mechanism, and even a goal of colonialism. But those are the teeth of colonialism, and I want to look at its bones. Stealing land and dispossessing people are events with temporal edges, but ongoing land theft requires maintenance and infrastructure that are not as discrete, given that colonization is a continuing process, not simply a historical event. Colonialism is a set of specific, structured, interlocking, and overlapping relations that allow these events to occur, make sense, and even seem right to some. And so this is kind of framing work I'm doing right now, kind of an ongoing timeline that's site-specific of colonial processes at Yaaw Teiyí, Herring Rock, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but I just wanted to put that in the space. These are just a few kind of pieces of this timeline, and I hate seeing them in these little bullet points because I do, they are. It's a process. It's ongoing. So these events are still existing in systems today. Oh, it's kind of blurry. Can we? Or is that just how? Okay, sorry, it's very small. I will read out loud. 1867, the Alaska illegal purchase. 1908, gratitude to Rebecca Polson, her work with this court case where federal courts deemed Native children unfit to attend white public schools if they practiced their culture, including eating Native foods, such as herring eggs, claiming they were not leading a civilized life. 1930s to 1960s, Forest Service burns down Native fish camps and smokehouses, which are essential to Tlingit food economy. 1941 to 1945, the waterfront of the tidelands in front of our clan houses is seized from Native owners by the Department of War with the promise of being returned to the Native owners, cutting off clan house access to water essential to Tlingit ways of life. And the tidelands is where Yaaw Teiyí is. And 1973, Yaaw Teiyí, our sacred site, Herring Rock, was dynamited to build a pier. Currently, Totem Hotel is on top of that place. And a piece was salvaged by my great uncle Donald Diedrichson, and that is now sitting in front of the Nakahiti Community House. In 1967, the state of Alaska opens commercial sacro herring fisheries in Southeast Alaska. And I just want to also say that these processes are kind of incommensurable to the generational traumas that they've caused, and forgive me for also omitting certain things. You can come in. Okay. Okay, on to performance studies, a couple things, and then we'll watch the film. This idea of remapping is from Mishwana Goman, an Indigenous scholar, and I'm kind of in relation to her work talking about how Tlingit women are remapping the tidelands with song, dance, harvest, protest, and ceremony, so all embodied practices, while moving within settler colonial spatialities, boundaries, and knowledge systems. So I highly recommend her book as well, mark my words. I wanted to share this quote about Indigenous presence and performance from Stephanie Noelani Teves. Hi, come in. Indigeneity has always been about movement and innovation, despite colonial efforts to fix it in time and space. I'm not going to go super deep into performance cartography, but Renee Palani-Lewis' work in performance cartography is this similar idea that Indigenous women in Hawaii are mapping land through song and dance and storytelling, and unsettling these kind of colonial maps of land. And one of my research questions is, how do embodied relationships activate and regenerate our sacred at'u to create deep reciprocal relationships with our environment and more than human relatives? Okay. I just want to make a little bit of space if anyone wanted to say anything or ask a question before we watch the film. The film is 20 minutes long, and it has been on a traveling exhibit for the last 2 years, I think, with our robes that you'll see, the Herring Lady robes in the film. And it was created to give voice to the robes while they're traveling into these museum spaces. And it's been shown one other time in Sitka, but this is the second time. Okay?
The spirit of the herring, the spirit of spring, is really conveyed in the story of the Herring Lady. It's a very much the story of rebirth and hope. My Tlingit name is etl'ee. I am Kiks from the Point House in Sitka. I am the grandchild of the Kagwantan Wolf House, and we Kiks women are known as the Herring Ladies. My English or my borrowed name is Louise Brady.
Hashigenya, we ask that the blessings be upon all those that enter onto all of our boats, and those boats that are gifted to us for a time to provide for the people. Grandfather, we thank you. Father, we ask that we would be safe and those who travel with us would be safe. Prepare those that are in the water, our brothers and sisters and the beings that will offer their lives this season for our nourishment. We are forever grateful.
The Herring Lady teaching is one of the most important teachings I think that we have. The teaching talks of a young lady who, on the bright, beautiful, sunny days of spring, would go down to the beach. And this is while everyone else was working and getting ready for the harvesting seasons that were coming up. And the people of the village really didn't know what she was doing, and they thought she was being lazy because she was going down to the beach and the channel and just sitting down in the sun. It was like she was sunning herself, and people thought she was lazy. But what she was actually doing is that she was going down to the beach, going down to the rock, and she was singing to the herring. She was inviting the herring to come in. And she would go down there every day, and one beautiful sunny day she was sitting on the rock and she was singing, and she fell asleep and the tide was coming in, and when she woke up, her hair had been in the water, and the herring laid eggs in her hair. And that teaching to me speaks to so many things about the possibility of spring, of rebirth, and the importance of women, and the importance of rebirth, and the importance of herring to the whole ecosystem. It's such a beautiful teaching, and I really would hope that people would start listening to that, because that's the way that we get back to that sacred relationship.
We're gonna go scout out trees right now and find the ones that are ready to offer their life to feed the people.
Yeah. This is where I've gotten some before, along this area. Another 5 years. Trees growing close together like that that always bare on one side. That's the way those are. Oh yeah, this is good. You know, you want them with more branches out. Yeah, you want them like this.
Would you like to go with us? Direction. Okay, let's take this one. I'm going to cut above the moss. You want to make sure that before you take a tree, you're thinking about the life you're taking. Here, you want to have that good base for tying the knot. Look how flat the leaves are and how beautiful and nice they're set. I think the herring would love to spawn on this tree. It's a little bit different than the usual ones we get, but I think this one wants to go fishing with us. Tooshí, tooshí, tooshí. This branch is almost a tree until it's set. Hello. Beautiful tree like this. Tooshí. Spirit of the tree. Feeding the people. Tooshí.
Oh hey, oh hey, oh hey. Oh hey, oh hey, oh hey.
You know, the robes were just, I think, beyond anyone's expectation. And I hope that many people get the chance to see them, but to see them in motion, because it really warms my heart that, you know, my great-great-great-grandchildren will know this story. And they will know that in order, I think, to protect the things that we love, yes, we do need to take risks. And that happens in every generation, just like I can look back to my great-great-great-great-grandmothers who fought beside the men in 1804 at the fort site. That we hopefully all get to have those examples of courage and bravery and passion for who we are, and you know, to hold each other up. We're a matrilineal society, so for me, again, the herring woman is a way for us to say, you know, we are matrilineal and we play a huge role, and let's talk about this role and let's talk about where we can go. And so when Jennifer wanted to design the robes, I was very, very stunned, but very grateful that she wanted to. And then She actually requested to work with Carol Huey in her studio. I think it took probably at least 30 women, I hear, 30 people to sew buttons and to work on those robes, and they're so beautiful. And I think they're an amazing expression of the importance of women in Tlingit society, of the importance of herring to us as Tlingit people, but also to the environment and to the whole ocean and the life that so many people depend upon.
See how they're laying flat like this? And how they're pointing the same direction, okay? You don't want ones that are pointing all different directions. You want to try to get away from any lichen. There might be, a little bit on there. No moss, things like that. Because you are inviting the herring for that blessing to spawn on your tree. So you want it to be as presentable as possible, right? Through all the waves and all the storms and all the wind, you've got to make sure you tie the bottom really good. Yeah. So let Andy show you how to tie that really good on the bottom there.
Dark there.
And these are just the first trees. So see, you gotta allow yourself time if you're gonna get off on the shore and you're gonna go get trees and rocks because you're working with the tide and stuff. So Andy's doing real good. And people tie differently. Steve ties a little different. Elders will tie a little different, but
Bunch of half inches.
we don't lose many trees, so.
When we're talking about history, when we hear about what has happened in Tlingit Ani to our way of life was basically centered around food. We had a food economy, and having a food economy necessitates that we have a different relationship with food. And when you have that kind of economy and are so closely tied to the oceans and the land and the animals, our relatives, that necessitates a respect that has been lost with the change to a money economy. And I think that makes the conversation really difficult between traditional harvesters, between Tlingit people and people who are harvesting sacro for money, to pay for things, to pay for their homes. Because there has been such a disconnect between us and the oceans and the forest and all of the beings that live in the forest, that when I say we have a spiritual and cultural connection to the herring, it loses in translation. And when we have the ku'ik, or this ceremony, that is our way of strengthening that relationship, but also the responsibility that comes with that relationship through our teachings to the herring. And the importance of changing how we relate to herring, how we relate to everything around us, because it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with money. And the difference is from this very one-dimensional black and white, we either fish or we don't, to this multi-dimensional relationship of spiritual nourishment, cultural nourishment, and physical nourishment that doesn't translate to Western culture very easily. The Herring Lady robes were given a name at a ku'ik and witnessed by probably 300 guests. And so that makes it at'u. The witnesses will then be called on to say, yes, I witnessed the bringing out of these robes, the dedication of these robes as at'u. And so the history becomes knowledge that is kept by the community. Our at'u is our ancestors. It's that spiritual essence, that the soul of our culture. The robes will become our ancestors. The robes will carry the spirit of our spirit, of those of us who have been a part of the ceremony and a part of this struggle to keep our culture and our food ways, our spiritual ways alive. So that when we bring out at'u, we are inviting our ancestors. We are bringing our ancestors into that ceremony with us. And when I think about 200 years from now, when the kakhatja robes are brought out, hopefully by my great-great-great-grandchildren, they will be able to tell the history of how we, in the early 2000s, fought for our way of life, and that the tears and the love and the emotion that we put into that is still there. And so that's what I feel every time I take part in ceremony, every time I hear my mother's name, every time I hear my father's name. They're here with me again. And everything that they stood for and everything that they did for us as Tlingit people. So there is so much to at'u. It tells our history. It tells our history. They are our ancestors. The at'u, they are our ancestors, and they bring all of them with them.
Tish. I also wanted to share an excerpt of a film by Gary Olson with an oral history written by Esther Littlefield. But I wanted to invite all the Kiksadi in the room to stand with me if they are able. Becca? I think there's 3. Or is there more? Okay. Do you want to join me up here, or do you want? No, you don't want to. Okay, no pressure.
Herring Rock was a sacred place, and the children were not allowed to play around it. But one year, before the herrings spawned, a young girl who was not married yet went down to the rock, although the people told her not to. Each morning, the young lady would go down to the beach and sit on a rock, and then all the herrings would come around the rocks, swimming around, and then she'd start singing lullabies to the herrings. The old people wondered why she did that, because each morning, as the tide came up, she'd go down and sit on the rock. The girl had long hair, so it had hung in the ocean. This attracted the herring. They came flipping around her hair as she sang the lullabies to them. On account of this, the people called her Gahajasha, or Flipping Girl. So therefore, the rock became the Kiksadi landmark. Herring season came. The Kiksadi people went down to the beach and sat and wondered when the flipping girls, the Gahajasha, were going to come dance around the rock. Then one day would come, they'd all come first and dance around, and our people came and sang and welcomed them. Then they disappear again, and later they came again. Then they spawned around that place. From then on, it spread all through the village, all the way to Jamestown Bay, then out among all the islands. That is how it became known as the Herring Rock. The Herring Rock and the Flipping Girls, the Gahajasha, always enjoyed themselves dancing around the rock. The raven saw all the herrings, Gahajasha, dancing around the rocks.
So he tempted. That's human nature. Yet he's trying to control himself, so he goes and invites his brother-in-law, the eagle, to come with him and join in with the fun also, testing his brother-in-law to see whether he'll be tempted to see a herring, or would he see a beautiful girl, Gahajasha, dancing around the rock. This story brings up all the respect of nature that was taught to our young and old. The rock stands of knowledge, strength, faith, and truth. Also weakness is all.
The water was silver with the fish flipping and jumping.
The Kiksadi people went down to the beach.
This is the phenomena of kachacha that my house is named after, and the herring lady, Kahachasha, when the herring are spawning and the water is full of spawn and they're breaking the water with their movements and like shattering glass. I've heard different versions, but I just think it's so beautiful. How are we on time? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I just want to bring out in that account of our history of the Herring Rock woman is is how Esther talks about the herring lady, Kahachasha, also being the herring coming to spawn. And she uses that interchangeably, Kahachasha. And I want to be a little, I think I have a little too much to share. But yeah, this is just in-process research, and so I'm looking at how Yaaw Teiyí, our herring rock, is etl'ee. Also, our herring lady robes are etl'ee, and how with these embodied practices we kind of enact these relationships, and how this can unsettle colonial ways of knowing, and also just support our sovereignty also into policy. I think these concepts of or Indigenous ways of knowing herring as relatives is so important to bring into these spaces, because the Alaska Constitution, this is just an example, in the language and the way of knowing. In the settler state, it is the policy of the state to encourage the settlement of its land and the development of its resources by making them available for maximum use, consistent with the public interest. Fish, forests, wildlife, grasslands, and all other replenishable resources belonging to the state shall be utilized, developed, and maintained on the sustained yield principle, subject to preferences among beneficial uses. So there's so much there to unpack. Who is the public? What does that really mean? Settlement and maximum use. It is in stark contrast. This is a quote from Ralph Brady from just a couple months ago. That's what we were taught growing up. My grandpa, my dad, all the old timers. You only take what you need. You only take what you need. If I felt we had too many herring eggs, I wouldn't pull another set. That's how we preserve the food that we have available to us. Take what you need only, over and over again. They didn't say it just to say it. They said it because it meant something. And so I've been talking to Ralph and Gary about this a lot. And this importance of sharing in our community and taking what you need, and how it's so beautiful that Ralph would talk about how he would leave some branches. You always leave some branches in the water for the eggs to hatch, and that's because it's this continuing the relationship and making sure that the herring have a clean, safe, and welcome place to spawn, and that they will continue coming back. And building that relationship with us. And closing with Kashitla, Louise Brady, our ceremony is our policy. Okay, ganachchish. Yeah, and this is just some of the people I've worked with individually so far in different ways. I wanted to acknowledge. I'll leave that, and then later I'll put on my slides for the resources if you want to know what texts I was citing.
Where are you doing the doctorate? A question, which university are you at?
Okay. I have to give the mic to everyone who speaks for the man in the camera. I am at UC Davis. They have a small Native-led Native American Indigenous Studies program.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate your presentation. My oldest son, his Tlingit name is Kajauk, meaning little herring. And to hear and see the story of the woman, it connected me. And so again, Gunalchish, I am Duckdane Tan from Huna. So again, thank you.
Ganachchish. Oh, okay, I will repeat it. Oh yeah, thank you.
If we wanted to show this film at our university or in our classes, what's the process of that?
Which one? Oh, I would love to come share it, and you can also. Yeah, I just have to talk to Louise. It's kind of new. The exhibition is just coming to a close, and it's very rare that we're showing it this way. And I think if it's done, with context, and I would be happy for it to be shared in an educational context. Also, Jessica is now with you, so she's trying to get me over there as much as possible. So I'd love to come visit. Yeah, she's amazing. And I loved your presentation as well yesterday.
Additional questions? Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
Goodness Cheesh for this wonderful presentation and how you have honored our herring. I would like to tell you that when the herring come to Sitka, we have many teachers in the school district that really want to bring in the herring story, the herring life into the classroom. And I really would appreciate it if that could happen more, because that's what we hear every year. Any way you come in. I just really appreciate all this presentation and bringing our focus on your work. And thank you, Goodness Cheesh, for all that you're doing for our herring. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to come into the schools and do screenings. Yeah, be great.
There are no more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.